everybody, it's Becky. Welcome back to my channel. I'm doing another curriculum flip through today. I did one recently for BJU Press Homeschool English 4, and a lot of you guys said in that video that you wanted to see flip throughs of the other BJU Press curriculum that I have. So I have a few. I'm going to be taking the next few days to film them, but today I'm going to show you a flip through of BJU Press Homeschool Heritage Studies 4, which is what I'm going to be doing with my youngest daughter for 5th grade. Even though it's 4, we're doing it for 5th grade. If you might notice, there's no teacher's manual here because I'm not teaching her heritage studies, which is basically history, social studies. I'm not teaching her that. We do the BJU Press Homeschool distance learning option for both girls for history. We did it last year with both girls, and we're doing it again this coming school year because we loved it so much. And so I don't have a teacher's manual here to show you. If I had the teacher's manual here to show you, this is pretty much what it would look like if you were going to be teaching heritage studies yourself. But like I said, I'm doing the distance learning, so the girls actually watch a teacher teach the lesson. It's a pre-recorded lesson that they watch, and the teacher will assign them the work. The teacher assigns them the reading in their textbook. She assigns them any work in their workbook and tests and things like that. So I'm going to show you what the curriculum looks like in the textbook. That way you can get an idea of what's covered, and then I'm going to also show you kind of all the little pieces that go along with it. So this is the Heritage Studies 4 textbook. Heritage Studies 4 is a 1-year curriculum. One thing that's different from level 4 versus level 3 we did last year, level 3 is actually designed to be a 1-semester course. We actually stretched it out and made it go for the entire 4th grade year, but you could do Heritage Studies 3 in 1 semester. But Heritage Studies is meant to be a full year course. I'm going to go over what's covered in Heritage Studies 4. In this level, there are 18 chapters. You've got Justice and the Fear of God, Rebuilding the Nation, The Wild West, Busy Cities, All That Glitters, America Expands, Progress and Problems, The Great War, Enjoying the Peace, Living Through Hard Times, At War Again, the Northeast, the Southeast, the Midwest, the Southwest, the Rocky Mountain States, the Pacific States, and Territories. So we're going to do a lot of geography study here in this book, which I'm really excited about because at the end of 4th grade, we did start a geography program with her about the United States and North America in general. So this part is going to go right along with studying the states and things like that. And then at the back, you have some reference pages. You have an atlas, you have a political map of the United States, a physical map of the United States, the regions, a geogloss. You have like a glossary here of all the different places talked about. Biographical dictionary, so all the different people that you're going to be studying about, and then you have your index. So that's pretty much what the student textbook looks like. One reason why I chose BJU Press Heritage Studies for history versus several other brands, and one of the brands I was looking at seriously was Ebates, but I felt like at this age I wanted the curriculum to focus a lot more on the high points and not so much about the little details. I don't want to overwhelm my daughter. Even though she's a very good reader, she's still an early reader, and I wanted the information to be a lot more concise and to the point, and I didn't really find that with Ebates. And then a lot of the reviews that I read and watched about Ebates kind of said the same thing. When you compare Ebates with BJU Press at the early ages, it seemed like Ebates was a lot more wordy. And so I wanted to make it really kind of condensed and hitting the high points. And I think that the BJU Press Heritage Studies curriculum does that really nicely, especially for the younger kids. So you've got pictures mixed in. You've got lots of little graphics here, all about the growth of industry and Andrew Carnegie in this section. And what I like about it, and what we usually do as my daughter's going through the lesson, any word that's like a vocabulary word or an important place or person, it will be bolded here. And so when she goes through and reads this, I have her keep a separate notebook, and she writes down, okay, so Andrew Carnegie is in bold. He's an important person in this chapter. She writes down his name and what he did, who he was. Same thing with any words that are not people, like a strike or a labor union, racial discrimination, a subway. She's writing down all of these vocabulary words that go along with her heritage studies, and I think that's really helpful. I also like the beginning of each chapter has a timeline. So like chapter 10, the beginning talking about the Great Depression, and it shows here kind of the timeline of this time period. Just a lot of little pictures, I think, to interest the kids, and there's just enough text, I think, that is enough where you're able to get the point across and the information delivered, but it's not overwhelming. So little sections here, And the instructors and the teacher's manual will tell you, if you're teaching it yourself, it'll tell you what pages each day your child's supposed to read. If you're doing the distance learning option, the teacher on the screen will tell your child what to do and what to read. So that is the textbook in a nutshell. One thing I will note is it does say that it starts with the first Americans. There's a very, very brief introduction to the first Americans. Pretty much just this little section right here about the first Americans, Europeans, the Great Awakening, so Puritans and Pilgrims, and then it jumps right into the Revolutionary War, because I feel like Heritage Studies 3 talked a lot more about early American history. So this would be all stuff that you'd learn about pre-Revolutionary War. Here there's a very brief, kind of a very brief review of the early American settlers, and then starting with Revolutionary War. It did talk about the biblical concepts. Again, like I mentioned with English, there are Bible truths woven throughout this curriculum. If you're a Christian, I think you'll appreciate it. If you're not, I don't feel like it's overwhelming or in your face. That would definitely be something that you would have to decide, but I personally don't think that even if you weren't a Christian, that it's so much that you would have a problem with it. But that's all personal opinion and perspective, or your perspective might be different than mine. But I definitely wouldn't say that somebody who's not a Christian shouldn't use this curriculum. I think it's good for anybody. Like I said, as the child either is taught by you or their online teacher, they're going to be assigned reading in their textbook, and they're also going to be assigned any work they're supposed to do that goes along with each chapter in their student workbook. So they call it an activity manual. The pages are perforated, and they do have a hole punch so that you can tear them out if you want and put them in a binder, or you can leave them in the book that they're in. Pretty simple workbook. Again, I like that it's not too much information, not too many questions, not asking too much of a young student. I feel like they did a really good job of condensing it down and really only talking about the high points, and really only asking kids to remember the most important points, most important people, and most important events. And it's all done through a bunch of different activities. You've got map work, you've got some multiple choice here, you do have some mapping over here where the child has to look at a map and write in the different locations. You've got completing the sentences, so a bunch of different activities, cause and effect. You've got here, you've got little reading passages that they're supposed to do, and then answer questions based on the reading. So a bunch of different activities that are really fun, and I think they keep the kids from getting bored because there is so much variation, but they are not overwhelming. So that's pretty much what you would have whether you're teaching your child or if you're having them do the online lessons. Now, the one thing that would be different, if you are doing the distance learning option, you will also get a packet that looks like this, which is the student handouts. And this is what your child's instructor will every now and again say, handout page 12 or whatever page it is. Okay, so this is page 11. This is something that will go along with whatever the teacher is teaching online during the lesson. So that's something that you'll get if you are doing the distance learning option. Another thing you're going to get if you do the distance learning option is this parent facilitator copy of video lessons. So basically, this book tells you exactly what your child is doing when they're doing their online lesson. So it tells you the day of the school, it tells you the school day that you're on, the video, the chapter that you're talking about, any materials that are required, the textbook, so the student text, that's this one. They're going to be reading pages 2 through 4 for this day. If there's an assignment, it'll tell them the assignment. And then you've got some things here that it'll tell you to do as the parent. Most of the time, it's just checking your child's work. So like whenever she does anything in her workbook or any type of thing like that, it'll tell me what I need to grade for the day. Because it is hard sometimes as the parent, if your child is doing an online class, you may not always know day to day what they're doing, what they were supposed to do, what reading they were supposed to do, what pages they were supposed to do in their workbook. So this is a really easy way for me to look at a glance and say, okay, day 2, I need to check her answers here. And this is kind of what she was doing online. Day 4, I'm checking this. So that really helps you as the parent to be involved, but not really have to plan anything or be kind of there every single day while they're doing their heritage studies. Another option that you have with any BJU Press homeschool curriculum is the test booklet. I didn't show this with the English 4 flip-through that I did, and several people asked about it. You do not have to have this. It's an extra purchase. You don't have to have the test booklet because there is a chapter review at the end of each chapter in the student workbook. So like here is the chapter review for this chapter. You've got a couple multiple choice questions. You've got some fill in the blank and naming different cities, and then you've got a map thing here. You know, all the reviews are different, but you do have a review at the end of each chapter in the student workbook. So you do not have to have the test. But like I said in the English curriculum flip through, I really like to have them. I think it's an extra way to test that your child is remembering what they learned. So you will have to purchase these separately if you do want that to be able to do tests. There is a test booklet, which is one purchase, and a test answer key, which is a separate purchase. I like that BJU Press Homeschool has everything. You can either purchase in a complete set, or you can purchase everything a la carte, where you just decide maybe you just want the student workbook and you just want the student textbook and you don't want tests. Maybe you want to have everything and you want to do the test. You're going to want the test and the answer key, because unless you plan on sitting there and checking their work, or you're really good at history and you remember all this stuff, you're going to want the test answer key, and those are sold individually, but they are there for you. They are an option, and I really enjoy having those. This is pretty much all there is to Heritage Studies 4. And it's a couple different options for you. Like I said, you can teach it yourself if you have the teacher's manual. I obviously don't, but if you want to teach it yourself, I really recommend getting the teacher's manual. And I go into more detail why in the English 4 flip through, because I really think the teacher's manual is set up really, really well. It's scripted. It's got a copy of basically everything your child is seeing in their student workbook. You're able to see copies of that in your teacher's manual, so you can go through it with your kid without having to like look over their shoulder. It's got answers keys in them for the student workbook. So I really recommend that if you're going to be teaching any BJU Press homeschool curriculum, whether it's Heritage Studies or Science or English, whatever it is, I highly recommend the teacher's manual. I would not want to teach it without it. You could do it, but it would be a lot harder for you. So anyway, that's the only thing that's missing from here. That is the Heritage Studies 4 in a nutshell, what we're going to be learning next school year. And then I will go through Heritage Studies 3 pretty quickly, just to kind of show you the difference. Like I said, the book is quite a bit smaller, but that is because Heritage Studies 3 is meant to be a one semester course, and Heritage Studies 4 and every year after is meant to be a full year course. But having stretched this out for an entire year, I can say very easily you can definitely make it an entire year curriculum. Or if you want to make it one semester, do it in one semester and then do something different for second semester. Heritage Studies 3 starts pretty much with Christopher Columbus and his journey to America, talking about the Puritans. There was a lot of talk about the Pilgrims and the early colonization, talking about trade, and it does get to the French and Indian War, the Revolutionary War, and like I said, in this Heritage Studies 4, you're also talking about the Revolutionary War, but it's in a lot more depth and you're taking a lot more time with each topic. In Heritage Studies 3, it's definitely much, much more condensed than Heritage Studies 4. While there were 18 chapters in Heritage Studies 4, there's only 10 in Heritage Studies 3. So the beginning, the Constitution, presidents and precedents, Jefferson and moving west, the War of 1812 and national growth, Andrew Jackson and democracy, growth in the East, the United States spreads west, so there's a lot of talk about the Oregon Trail, a nation dividing, and the Civil War. So Heritage Studies 3 ends with the Civil War. That is kind of a comparison and contrast of Heritage Studies 3 with 4, and also how the program works in general, whether or not you want to do the teacher's manual and teach it yourself, or you want to do the video lessons like we do. I really like having that. It's one less subject that I have to teach. And being a work-at-home mom, that really is helpful to me to have that, somebody else teaching something for me that I know they're getting a good quality education and learning experience, and it's actually good for them to have somebody else to listen to besides me. I do plan on doing a flip through of the BJU Press Science 4 and Science 5. I also plan to do one for the U.S. History course that my oldest daughter is going to be doing this fall. So definitely stay tuned for those. If you enjoy these flip through videos and they have been helpful, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you have any questions, and make sure you check out my homeschooling playlist. Every single homeschooling video I've ever done is in that playlist. So curriculum choices and curriculum reviews, our homeschool room tour, organization, encouragement, any previous flip throughs that I've done for BJU Press. Tons and tons of videos in that playlist. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.